Some people just don't get it. They think that you're trying to show off. Push. Are you ready?
1,500 competitors.
It's gonna get cold fast.
21 challenging obstacles.
Pull, 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 pull.
5 desert miles. And 24 hours of one of the most insane endurance challenges on the planet. World's Toughest Mudder 2016 was bigger, better, and badder than ever before. And we're breaking it all down next.
Hello and welcome to World's Toughest After Show presented by U.S. Army. Brent Stover. Joining me today is Amelia Boone, the most decorated obstacle course racer ever, 3-time World's Toughest Mudder champion. Injured, unfortunately, couldn't compete this year, but from your perspective of the race, you're obviously there 24 hours overnight. What was your biggest takeaway?
You know, I think we saw that the obstacle innovation this year was just unparalleled on the part of Tough Mudder. And then to that end, the racers ran more miles than we've ever seen before. So it was an incredible event. Incredible, no doubt. Suffering, that's just one of the words you accept in this sport. This year's race, it was one to remember. Before we break it all down, let's take a look back at some of the most notable moments from World's Toughest Mudder 2016.
Fresh as a daisy.
In the men's individual race, 2-time World's Toughest champion Jun Young Pak came out blazing and led for the first 11 laps.
What lap is this?
11.
Pak hit a wall at about mile 55 and within 30 minutes had dropped from the top 10. Trevor Sykos, who had finished second the year before with an effort of 95 miles, took the lead on lap 12.
I'm still under pace to get 100, so my goal tonight.
With the help of his pit crew, Sykos kept an even pace, running an average of 14 minutes per mile. By 11 p.m., he had moved into first.
The first penalty I got today is bound to happen.
A former Marine, Sykos held a 20-minute advantage through the night. But at 7:30 in the morning, he was passed by Austin Azar.
Well done. You're an animal. You are an animal. It's an honor pushing with you to 100 miles.
Who had managed a startling 12-minute per mile pace over 20 miles to catch the leader. In another 5 miles, however, Azar's burst was done, and he barely hung on to finish second. While Sykos, steady as ever, completed 105 miles to take the men's title.
How you feeling?
Good. Just now settling in. Gonna take it easy.
In the women's race, Stephanie Bishop, running in her first World's Toughest, took the lead 20 miles into the race and held that to the finish.
Yes! Thank you.
Well done.
The race in the team division started neck and neck, with the top 4 obstacle course racers in the world trading the lead over the first 8 hours.
How you feeling?
Pretty good. Getting there.
At the 40-mile mark, the team of 3-time World's Toughest champion Ryan Atkins and his partner John Albin took the lead for good. They crossed the finish after completing 105 miles to set a new team record and capture the $100,000 bonus.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
In the end, of the 1,500 competitors who started, almost 80% completed the race. That is awesome. What's your biggest takeaway when you watch that recap?
I think what's so unique about this event and what people don't understand is that in a 24-hour race, the race doesn't really even start until 12 to 18 hours in. Like if you're leading in the beginning, as you can see, it's not going to mean anything when it comes to the 23rd hour.
It truly is unreal. Let's talk about some of the new obstacles we saw in Lake Las Vegas this year. Funky Monkey, the Revolution. What is so difficult about this obstacle?
Well, doesn't it just look difficult
Yes.
as it is? I mean, so here you have monkey bars, and you're going up at an incline, and everyone thinks monkey bars are easy. They're not. Maybe they were when you were 5 years old. But then to make it even more difficult, Tough Mudder added these spinning wheels in which you then have to traverse your way down, which you think, okay, maybe okay the first, 2 or 3 times through this. But as the night wears on, it gets more and more difficult.
What is the best strategy then as a top athlete trying to complete this?
Well, stay dry. Don't fly. No. You definitely want to make sure before you go up to this obstacle that you have some good grip strength, kind of stretch out your forearms, make sure your hands aren't wet, because you want to get through this quickly. The longer you hang on those bars, the more it's going to tax your grip.
How about Augustus Gloop? This is another new obstacle for 2017. The water really seems to be a challenge, to say the least, on this one.
Right, so if you've ever tried to crawl into a fire hose, this is what I would imagine it would be like. There is water shooting straight down the top, and the competitors have to climb up through these tunnels. You can't see anything in there. And so imagine 2 a.m., it's a nice little wake-up call.
What's the best strategy trying to get through this the best way possible?
You want to make sure to just not freak out. This is actually more of a mental obstacle. A lot of competitors will get into that closed space and you can't see anything, and it throws them off.
All right, we have a huge show for you today. All of our world's toughest winners are in the building, plus Coach and E-Rock. You don't want to miss those guys. It's all coming up next, including men's champion Trevor Sykos and men's runner-up Austin Azar. They join us right here in studio. Stick around.
Hey guys, how you feeling? Great. Go Trevor! I went from feeling great to just a body shutting down.
Unbelievable drama at the end of this race, 24 hours, and we have the champion Trevor Sykos and the runner-up Austin Azar with us in studio. I actually want to start with you, Austin. As you look at those images and you see complete shutdown of your body, what's going through your mind?
Yeah, I was hurting really bad at that part of the race, pretty much falling apart, but knew Trevor was right behind me, trying to just stay ahead of him.
About 94 miles in, which 94 miles into the thing, which is pretty late, about 8 a.m. in the morning, you surged past him. At that point, you were feeling well enough to where the thing was in sights. You were going to be the champion. Was that your mindset at that time? Take us through that.
Yeah, after passing him, I felt really, really good up until, in mile 99. I felt like I was on pace to hit 115. Like right before my body shut down, that was kind of in my head, like you're gonna get to 115, and then all of a sudden, everything fell apart.
Now, when you were in the lead, did you look back? I mean, how often did you check over your shoulder? Because that's gotta be scary. You just don't know where he is, and he can come out anywhere in front of you.
Yeah, it's pretty wild being, that far into the race and just looking over your shoulder and someone's a minute behind you, like 2 minutes behind you.
We saw in the shot there, Trevor, where at one point you guys, and we talked before this, neither of you even really remembers, but you saw the shot there, the arm in arm. You don't normally see that between two guys that are going against each other for the win. Tell us a little bit about the camaraderie and what it means for you guys when, yes, you want to win a race, but at the other time, you're trying to beat the course as well.
Yeah, everyone's there to beat the course together. It's the way I've always seen it, is just all of us versus the course.
But for you, though, you had finished second. You had finished third as well. How important was it for you to finally reach the pinnacle at this level?
Well, to be honest, I never thought to actually win the event to be attainable for me. I just wanted to get 100 miles, and I was going to get that, so I was happy. And when Austin came past me and I saw how strong he was, I was like, that's it, it's gone, you know.
Now, Trevor, you seem to have a very deliberate race plan going into this. And in the beginning, early hours, we saw that, you know, you weren't actually on top of the leaderboard at all, and neither were you, Austin. And did you, in the back of your mind, were you questioning or second guessing your plan, or
No,
did you
never.
you always kind of just, we're going to stay the course?
Yeah, I actually told Chris Mendoza before the race, like, you won't see me till midnight. I'm just going to be hanging around in the back, and then I'll creep up. And I think I passed Mendoza right before midnight, so my plan went pretty much exactly as I wanted.
Your strategy was a little bit different. What was your thought on how you wanted to do this thing over the 24 hours?
Yeah, so I wanted to take it slow in the first half, and then as soon as midnight hit, just start going really, really hard. And that's where I started dropping really fast lap times and started gaining every lap on the leaders.
But see, that's interesting because typically at night people tend to slow down because you can't see anything, you can't see the headlamps. Did you actually use that as motivation to go faster?
I found it really exciting running at night.
Yeah.
Just having a headlamp running in the dark. There's actually one lap where I lost my headlamp and was running completely blind at some points, but I found that pretty exhilarating and actually moved faster.
What was the biggest challenge in terms of obstacles for you, Trevor?
Keep my grip strength in my hands. It's always been the biggest challenge every year. Your hands get cold, they don't close as tightly, and your forearms get tired. And just hanging on to those bars for like double rainbow, the one we swing across the water, and the funky monkey, you go up the monkey bars with the loops. I mean, those get hard to do later on to the course.
Funky monkey is, and we talked about it in the first segment. I mean, it's a bear unlike any other. What was your strategy on that?
Keep my arms straight, you know, because I find that if you go into it like this, you can go faster, but you're going to burn out your biceps faster. So you want to hold on to those and just keep your arms straight and just go slow and stay confident and plan every move.
Now let's talk about something that you don't see necessarily is the pit area where people come in, where you have your crew, you have things like that. I heard something about how you guys were hiding from each other in the pit. Did this happen? Were you like trying to not see each other, was there a mental game going on?
Well, what happened was he passed me on lap 19, and he came in right before me, and he was in his pit area a little farther back. And I came in, and my pit crew was like, oh crap, no, I'm gonna keep your voices down, don't say Trevor's name. I ran in and got my red cup of carb mix I had, drank it, and turned around, and Austin was right there, so I guess word got out.
I almost didn't see him. There was a CBS camera right in front of me, and I kind of looked and saw Trevor right there, and I was like, oh, I gotta go.
Quickly here, you were a U.S. Marine. How does that compare? The training, obviously, which is brutal, going through that. How does that compare with the training and then the execution of World's Toughest Mudder?
Well, the Marines set me up mentally and physically for all this, I believe. Because for my first Tough Mudder, this stuff has been fun to me. It's never been miserable where I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. Like, I'm used to this stuff. So Marines taught me mental fortitude, which goes very well in this race.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's take a look now at the top men's finishers here. You got Christopher Mendoza, who finished in third with 100 miles, followed by Timothy Oliver and Matthew Hansen with 95 miles each. Obviously, Christopher Mendoza didn't get to be here, but in his own right, the American is phenomenal.
He's been a strong competitor. He's up there on that leaderboard every single year with World's Toughest Mudder. It's pretty incredible.
Guys, we really appreciate it. We're going to bring you back later on. Trevor, Austin as well. Great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
They'll be joining us again later on this one-hour show. More World's Toughest After Show presented by U.S. Army. Coming up, 2016 Women's Champ Stephanie Bishop joins us next on The Set. Stick around. Welcome back to World's Toughest After Show presented by U.S. Army. Looking at the women's finishers. Amelia, you have won this 3 times. We'll get to Stephanie Bishop in a moment, but Suzanne Kraus, the German, finishing runner-up in 2016.
Yeah, you know, nobody really knew about Suzanne before we came to this race. Everyone was like, who is she? Who is she? And she put up a dominant performance there.
No doubt. The champ herself, though, is with us right now. Stephanie Bishop, how does that feel to know that you are the world's toughest mudder champion?
I'm still trying to take it all in. It's kind of a dream to me to be the champion finally.
What was your thought going in? That, hey, I'm going to win this, or hey, I'm just going to, you know, win the course and just see what happens?
No, the plan was to go first and foremost run my own race. But the underlying and main goal was to go out there and win it. And I was not going to go home in any place but first place.
Now, so you were a surprise late entrant, actually, to most of us in the Tough Mudder world in this race. You have been training in secret all year long, and nobody knew you were showing up till a few days beforehand. Was there a strategy there? Like, why? Like, why hide it from everyone?
I've always wanted to do World's Toughest Mudder since 2010, and every year there was something that just came in my way, whether it be an injury, just work and life. And last year, I planned on doing it, but I got Lyme disease. So, you know, I was trying to get back to 100% health, and this year was like my year to come back. And I just said, you know what, since I'm doing this for myself, I'm just gonna lay low and just train kind of like Rocky style, and do my thing, and sign up, show up, and drop the mic.
No,
so
and you did that.
Yeah.
It's one thing to say that's how I'm going to do it. You did. That was one of the great
Dominant
mic drops
fashion,
of all
exactly.
time. At one point, you did get sick, and you did have to walk. Take us through that and how you were able to rebound, because it's one thing to get out to a large lead and be feeling good, but then at some point, if you have to drop out of this thing, it was all for naught.
Well, I was never going to drop out. That was never going to happen. What happened, I think I had developed some dehydration, some heat exhaustion from earlier in the day, and it kind of crept up on me, and in the middle of the night, I got really nauseous, my stomach was in knots, I really couldn't take down any food. But I had no idea how large my lead was at that point, and my pit crew was instructed not to tell me because I wanted to run my own race. They saw me in a shaky form, so they said, you know what, you have a huge lead, just walk. You can walk one lap, you could even probably walk 2 laps, and you'll still retain a big enough lead to win it.
You knew you had the victory in the bag, you knew it was yours. Was that last lap out there just kind of, you know, really a victory lap? I mean, could you really experience and take it all in?
It was only halfway in that final lap did I stop and take it all in, because I knew that the other women that were right behind me could potentially go out for another lap. And if anything happened to me out there, they could possibly pass me. You know, they had maybe I had a 40-minute lead, but what if I rolled my ankle? You never know what's going to happen out there.
All right, so April Hartwig declared boldly at the pre-race press conference that she was going to win. What are your thoughts on that?
I knew she was going to be a contender. I've obviously seen her compete against Amelia in previous years. I knew she was going out there to win it, but she really didn't faze me.
Amelia, read between the lines. What does she really think of what April said?
Well, you know, there are different types of competitors out there, and I think that a lot of us like to compete with our feet and just not talk a big game and go out there and do the job, get it done, walk away, as opposed to, like, you know, being very brash and bravado in the beginning beforehand. So Stephanie obviously went out there, no one had any idea she was coming, and just blew everyone away. And I think that's the approach I like.
You're the defending champ. You had a broken femur. That's why you were on the side of the course this year, but you're a 3-time world champ. In terms of next year, I mean, now this is a rivalry. Whether you want it or not, I'm starting a rivalry right now. Who's going to win it next year? How about some bravado from either one of you?
Well, we've actually, it's funny, we never have, we've crossed paths a lot, but we've never raced against each other. And even though I'd love to race against Amelia, I think it would be pretty fun. I think that her and I could actually take on the whole field, both men and women. I know that we're both mentally and physically capable of doing so. I only ran 85 miles because I only had to run 85 miles to win it.
If there was somebody pushing her behind. We haven't seen any women break 100, and we haven't seen a female team be at the top. So it's more our challenge is like, watch out, boys, we're coming for you. So.
Wow, that's pretty good. Yeah, no, you talk about getting together as a team. Is that a possibility for next year?
110%.
Yeah.
110%. All right, well, I want to circle back quickly to individual. You've won it 3 times. You told me off air, I said, if you'd have been in it, do you think she'd have been around you? And you feel like she probably would have been. So what now, are you happy now to have somebody here that could very much be on your heels going forward now?
I think I know people will be like, well, you should be scared. I'm like, sure, but it's fantastic, I think, to have more and more women coming into this sport. And, like, I welcome more competition because like Steph said, there's somebody that's on your heels that's pushing you to go further. And that's what we saw with the men's side this year. So hopefully the more women we can draw into this, the better competition we can have.
And we'll become better athletes too, because we'll be pushing ourselves even harder.
2016 champ, Stephanie, really appreciate you coming on. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, coming up next, two of the most well-known Tough Mudder faces, Coach and E-Rock. They're going to explain why that flag was so important in this year's race. Stay with us.
Oh, man.
How you feeling, Coach?
Feeling phenomenal.
We're gonna do this. Watch this. Yep. Push. Muscle up over. See that?
See how easy that was? You want to step here? Step here. Step.
Stick it up.
Well, that's just exhausting. Well, that's upsetting.
This is the most emotional, amazing thing you've ever done right here. This is it. This is the most amazing thing. Every little moment. Right now, live in every single moment and enjoy that moment and celebrate little teeny victories, and it'll get us to the very end.
Pretty powerful stuff right there.
Yeah.
Coach and E-Rock join us here in the studio. You two are the Tough Mudder trainers. And really, in many ways, the faces of this sport, in charge of leading the warm-up with electrifying energy, very tight, short shorts and tube socks. That's part of the deal as well. Motivation tactics. I mean, it truly is unbelievable what you guys do. In this case, you guys were part of the race this year.
We discussed it. We talked about it. We do warm-ups all year. We do events with people all year. And then there's this energy at events, and people talk about the world's toughest mudder. And, you know, E-Rock and I were talking about it, like, should we do this thing? And we decided yes, the first year, and let's go out and see what it is. And I had no idea how moving and emotional and how incredible of experience it was going to be. It was intense, as you can see, and then helping people, that's just part of it. That has nothing to do with just E-Rock and I. That's what it is out there.
So tell us about what you saw out there, or like what were some of those stories of those people?
Yeah, you know, the entire race changes over time. It starts out, everybody's collected, everybody's together, we're cheering each other on. It's a big group, you know, like bunch of fun in the beginning. Then the hours start to come, right? Then the night comes, right? And that's when like the whole course kind of settles down a little bit, and you really get to interact with each and every one of the racers that you come upon. Normally at that time, you know, he and I are running and we're coming up on groups of like 2 to 3 people that have been running together for a while. And you just plug into those conversations and you listen, because like the more hours you get, or the deeper you get into this race, like the more truth comes out, like the more the real reasons, the motivation for everybody like comes out. And it's truly something special.
And you guys are responsible for getting people motivated.
Yeah.
What's that? How did you develop first? I don't want to call it a shtick, because that's not giving it, honestly, enough credit. First time I saw you, this guy's a real piece of work. I mean, it's like 0 degrees out, it's raining. It was the event in New Jersey, and you got again, the tight shorts that your dad, my dad, everyone's dad wore when they were coaching our T-ball teams, and the high socks. But how did this all develop for you, this personality, this getting people ready for this race, for this big event in their lifetime?
Ultimately, the personality developed from just my mom and dad. I mean, it's just me, and that's what I think about. I mean, I love
it really is.
I love fitness or getting out there and doing fun stuff. And I believe that you should just get out there and try new things and don't take yourself so seriously and do stuff that you're not good at and just have a blast. Like, you know, shed those layers off, get out there, who cares, throw your hands up, do some hip circles, laugh with your friends.
All right, so again, guys, normally you do lead the warm-up at these Tough Mudder events, go out with a last wave, help people along. In this case, you teamed up for World's Toughest Mudder with a special purpose. Let's take a look back at the finish of your race.
Good job. You guys killed it. Got your 50.
You did it, Coach. Way to go. Way to go. Bionic Mama's proud of you.
I brought him for more than 50 miles, but when we hit 50, the sun was coming up on this magical event, and so I brought a little piece of Vernon, and he waited for the light to get 50, and then he allowed us to be a part of it. Vernon did 50. Vernon did, we did 60. Because you don't stop at your goals. You think you could go a certain distance, and you don't stop there. You go further than you thought you ever could go before. And that's what Tough Mudder is all about, is pushing people further than they ever believed they could go.
Wow, guys,
Man, that's heavy. Sorry, that moment has become like legendary, because it's set off not only like our emotions and the community's emotions, but it's helped Vernon's family.
Vernon, obviously a good friend of yours who had passed away, and you had his ashes in your pocket, and then you presented the 50-mile bib to his wife.
Yes. Awesome. He always wanted 50 miles. Something stood in his way each year. This would have been his 5th year. And just like we all know, there's so many things that could happen when you go out on a course like this. And I was thinking about it on my drive down. His wife gave me a little piece of his ashes because it was such a big part of his life, World's Toughest Mudder. She said, can you leave a little bit of him there? And on the drive down, I thought about it. I'm like, I'm going to actually carry him, and we're going to get that 50 miles. Or hope to. That's the master plan. And, you know, his final text, and we have a flag, his final quote or text to his wife was, waiting for the light. And you saw in one of those clips, on the 50th mile is when the sun
was coming up. Yeah.
It was epic. And that's when we knew. I
mean, that dawn, that light that comes over that so many of the world's toughest competitors know, represented not just like that awakening and knowing that you've made it through Black Ops, you know, and made it through that part, but it was the spirit of not only Vernon, but just the people that you're running for, the community that you're running for. It's like, it was a rebirth, like an awakening. It was truly something special.
Coach, can you tell us about that moment?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so you have goals, and we all have different goals, and we go out there and try to strive for them, whatever it may be. And right there I set out with a goal and had E-Rock as a teammate. And you never know, like, you know, there's so many things at an event such as this that are standing in your way, and purposely you know, Nolan's putting out stuff in our way, the desert, the weather, whatever. So you say this, I have this goal to get Vernon to the 50-mile mark. And we barely made it there last year. I made it there, and I left him in the desert, which was the saddest moment ever, because you leave no Mudder behind. And so you never know. And I'm like, I want to get Vernon this 50 miles. And so when we crossed right there, and you've done it. In fact, we went further than that, and we went further than we believed we could go. And you reach that goal. It's an experience that everyone should feel. Yeah. Like you should set yourself high goals, and then you should reach past them, and to do that for ourselves, but also for Vernon's wife and his son, and also for Vernon. Like that makes him a bit immortal, because he can now live on in our memory and everyone else out there that we taught or touched throughout the event. So a phenomenal moment, one of the best ones ever.
You guys have captured the spirit of this whole event, this whole sport, obviously well, with what you do every week. And right here today, we're seeing a shining example of that. Now, we do have you two guys, as well as the elite athletes with us in studio today. But most of the runners in World's Toughest Mudder, they're never going to have a shot to win the race. They do it for other reasons. Let's take a look at the rest of Mudder Nation. It's presented by U.S. Army.
I saw you out there all night. Great. You guys were killing it. It's good stuff. It was awesome doing all those obstacles. Thank you. Love you, brother.
Pull, 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 pull. Yep. Yeah, baby.
Flying Pete.
Good job, guys.
So we watched this video with what we call the rest of our Mudder Nation and these regular Tough Mudders. But I ask you guys, is there anything such as a normal Tough Mudder out there?
No, there really isn't. I think we all have a few screws to loose somewhere, you know.
I think that's what makes it great, right?
And the desire to kind of like push ourselves, you know, just see where the wheels will start falling off.
Right. Your quick thoughts on it?
You know, I don't think that there's any normal Tough Mudder or normal member of Mudder Nation, but I believe that anybody can be a member. Like, we want to welcome people to the family. Everyone should experience not only a Tough Mudder half or a Tough Mudder full or toughest Mudder. Come out with us for 24 hours. And whether your goal is, you know, 25 miles or 50 or just to make it through the night or 100 miles, we're all out there helping one another for each other's goals.
Again, I've called you guys the faces of this sport, and you represent it well. E-Rock, Coach, appreciate the time. Coming up next, the team champions. World's Toughest After Show, presented by U.S. Army, continues in just a moment.
Four. One done. Woo! Come down a little bit. Hey, how's it going? Good morning.
Highlights there of these two men. Joining us now, Ryan Atkins, John Albin, team champions and winners of $100,000 for completing 100 miles at World's Toughest Mudder. Is that 50-50 or does one of you get, is it 60-40? How do you split that money up?
Yeah, we had to rock, paper, scissors for, you know, who gets to keep it all and who goes home empty-handed.
Beautiful. Now, you live just outside of Toronto. You live in Norway. How does this come together? How are you able to train together? How do you become teammates when there's an ocean in between you? I'll start with you, John.
I think it didn't really actually matter that we lived so far apart because our lifestyles and training ethics and everything we do sort of complemented each other so well. So when we did actually come together to train, it was as if we've been trained together our whole lives, really.
Yeah, I mean, it was really natural, and I know when John and I first met each other, and it was through racing, and it was actually in a race, and he was saying, oh, I really like to, you know, bushwhack and orienteer, and I like to ski, and I'm like this guy just sounds just like me, and sure enough, it was like my doppelganger across the ocean. Yeah.
So are you guys like race husbands then? I mean, like, what did you talk about out there for 24 hours? I mean,
I can't even remember. I think we talked about a lot of things. I think there was a lot of bonding that happened, but yeah, it was as if we already knew each other. So I guess there wasn't much to talk about. We just laughed and joked and kept things light-hearted because we knew if we were going to do it, we were going to do it in the best possible fashion and we were going to do it happy.
Is there a point at which one of you really started to struggle and the other guy had to pick the other guy up, or what was that dynamic like? Yeah, there was a few moments. I know around lap 6, John started to really overheat because he had his wetsuit zipped up all the way, and some of the water obstacles were closed down, so he was getting like super hot, and we had to kind of slow down and get him some water and like unzip him. And then I know a little later on the race, I started feeling a little not as good as John. He had to kind of, you know, give me some words of encouragement and pick my spirits up a little bit, but overall we just felt good the whole time.
And now, was there ever at a point where you knew for sure you were going to hit that 100 miles and you were going to win that 100,000? And when was that in the race?
I think in the weeks before, I'd really thought if I get to lap 13 and I'm still feeling strong and Ryan's still feeling strong, like we're going to do this. But I think once we got to sort of like lap 15, we really thought, okay, we calculated how many laps we had to do and in what time. We thought, okay, this is like a real possibility now. So we just keep things super steady, keep doing what we've done and concentrate and keep knocking out the miles.
One thing about World's Toughest Mudder, which I love, is the fact that you help competitors along the way. But in a team situation, are you helping other guys, or is it every team for themselves?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were helping bunches of individual competitors, and we were also helping teams that we were directly competing against. We were helping them up and over the obstacles actively throughout the whole race.
That's awesome.
So we have this thing at World's Toughest Mudder called Black Ops, which is basically the hours from sundown to sunrise. And most competitors dread this as the worst part of the race. But you have a different view on this, I've heard.
Yeah, I think without Black Ops, you wouldn't have the sunrise. And the sunrise for me definitely is the most euphoric moment of the entire race. You suddenly realise you have run from when it set to when it rose, and you have accomplished that. And then you see it rise and the warmth and the heat hits your face, and you really sort of realise where you are and what you've done.
It's that the end is near feeling.
You have anything to add to that?
Yeah, and actually there's more hours in the dark than in the light in this race. So the team that can execute the Black Ops period the best and do the most number of miles during that period is probably going to be the team that wins.
Ryan and John, you guys are the champions, the top team. Appreciate it, and congratulations to you guys. Let's take a look at the top 3 team finishers at World's Toughest 2016. Chad Trammell, a former individual champion.
Yeah, so Chad was our 2015 male individual World's Toughest Mudder winner. He came back as a team this year to try and compete against Ryan and John, but Ryan and John obviously came out victorious.
Ryan and John, 105 miles, goat tough. Congratulations to them. When we come back on World's Toughest After Show, presented by U.S. Army, we're talking obstacles. What goes into the design of the Tough Mudder obstacles? We've got the authority on it, the man who designs them, when we come back. Welcome back. All Tough Mudder obstacles are created with 4 pillars in mind: teamwork, mental grit, fun, and personal accomplishment. World's Toughest Mudder saw the debut of some of the new obstacles that we're going to be seeing out of the course in 2017. These guys right here are going to get involved in a minute. But first, joining me now to shed some light on the design process, Nolan Campbell, Tough Mudder's Senior Director of Product Innovation and World's Toughest Mudder Race Director. Nolan, welcome to the After Show. Take us through this design process that you and your team go through.
Yeah, no problem. I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is this started over a year ago with all these obstacles. We took all your feedback from last year's World's Toughest Mudder and last year's Tough Mudder events and built it into the menu to design what we think is the best course possible year on year. And that really starts with a 5-stage process that we go through. It starts with ideation, which is a bunch of napkin sketches. I use this grid paper to draw out what we think is the best obstacle. Then it goes into a full testing process where we test for ourselves first. We want to put ourselves through the punishment before we ever put you guys through it. Then we test it with a small group of participants. We get their live feedback in the field. Small obstacle builds, they let us know how they like it, and then we'll roll it out in full scale to the event. But that's a really long process. We have to make sure we get everything right and the experience stands. But
what I like is that you go through it yourself, so you're going to about find out just how difficult it is. Yeah. Gonna have some fun. Ryan, we'll start with you. Questions from these guys for the man that's in charge of the innovation, so shoot away, Ryan.
Yeah, Nolan, now how do you figure out obstacle placement and obstacle sequencing out on course? And is that something that you go out and test afterwards as well?
Yeah, we spend a lot of time trying to think what parts of the body we want to challenge. So we don't want it to be all upper body, all lower body, all water, all non-water. So we mix it up so you guys don't know what's going to happen. We really want to balance out what we think is going to challenge you guys. So we're not going to leave an entire section of the course dry. We want to make sure that you're going to get your hands wet before you go through Funky Monkey. But we really think about how can we challenge you the most without making it too unfair.
Coach, how about you?
You said that you take a lot of feedback, through social media and whatnot. You've probably taken quite a bit so far. Are you going to change anything up for 2017?
Absolutely. I don't think we're ever satisfied with how it sits. You guys know what the challenge is. You guys want a challenge, and we're up to it. So that's what we have to do.
What are you changing?
I can't tell you. That's top secret. Top secret.
We'd have to kill you.
Top secret.
Stephanie, how about you?
Well, regarding 2017 and beyond, do you see the format encouraging more teams to compete?
I think that's one of the most important elements of World's Toughest Mudder and Tough Mudder is the fact that it's not about individuals winning. It's about doing it as a team and as a community. So I think we're definitely going to build in more team formats that feed into that spirit and actually change the competition a little bit.
Well, I have a question then. How about a male-female?
It's a very good question. It's one that comes up a lot. I'm going to put that in the top secret category.
Top secret.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I've got this.
Even the host of the show can't get anything out of him. John, how about you? Do you have a question?
Yeah, actually, lap 6 during the event was the lowest point I had in the entire race. And
Great,
that was,
great. Fantastic.
You're welcome. The sun had just gone down. We put our wetsuits on. We came around to the first water obstacle. It was closed. Came around to the second water obstacle. It was closed. Came around to the third. It was closed. I was thinking to myself, are they doing this to me on purpose? I was so overheated by that point. I just thought, my God, this is absolutely terrible. Is this on purpose?
The answer is absolutely yes. We do this stuff on purpose. We don't want the athletes to get too used to the course. We don't want them to understand and actually build perfection. We don't want, to do funky monkey every time. So we've built in adjustments to certain obstacles, so they change throughout the period of the event. So you don't know what you're going to get, and the technique changes.
So you were feeling nice and hot.
Oh, my.
Without any water to cool you off. Trevor, what is your question?
Actually, I touched on my question about how they determine the modifications to the obstacles throughout the night. I noticed that on Funky Monkey, you lowered a platform that you could use for your feet to get across.
Yeah,
So.
I could talk a little bit more about that too. The reason we do want to change up those elements are not only to make you guys fail, sometimes we want you guys to succeed at different points of the course. I know Funky Monkey is really tough on grip strength and really tough on upper body strength. Immediately after that, you have a few upper body obstacles. So we want to save you a little bit and let you save some in the tank for later in the course, because I want to see you guys do these obstacles. We spend a lot of time designing them, and if you guys are failing them right off the bat, it doesn't do me any good. So as long as we can preserve some of that throughout the race, we're going to try to do that.
It's kind of like a golf course. It's some of the major. You want to make it tough, but not impossible.
Exactly.
Austin, how about you?
Yeah, so if you can't do an obstacle, you have to take a penalty. How do you determine what that penalty is?
So it's associated with the severity of the obstacle. So if you're failing something like double rainbow, I like to think of it as a personal challenge for myself. We spend a ton of time on that obstacle, so if you don't do it, you should spend a ton of time on course. So we extend a penalty loop that you'll run for that one. Some of the more minor obstacles that you fail, they'll have a more minor penalty attached. But we use that as kind of a way to game the system and allow you guys to set your strategy so you know, hey, I need to nail double rainbow. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do this one right.
All right, lastly, but not last but not least, how about you, Erod?
So it sounds like it's a big mathematical equation. You guys think this out like incredibly well. Did you design this year to enhance somebody's chances of winning the $100,000?
Yeah, and I think I said this earlier too. I want to see you guys succeed. I want to see somebody break 100 miles. I love it. It's great for me. I don't want to make it easy. We designed this year's course to favor obstacle completion more than just traditional running. I think that's what we do best. We build the biggest and best obstacles. So if we could get you guys to perfect those, great. And if you did them well, you're going to have a better chance of running 100 miles.
All right, outstanding, guys. Great questions. Nolan, appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Your team does awesome work. When we come back on World's Toughest After Show, presented by U.S. Army, we're giving you a preview of everything Tough Mudder coming up in 2017. Stick around. You don't want to miss it. Welcome back. Tough Mudder 2017 has some new formats. Tough Mudder Half is back for year 2. This one is only a 5-mile course, Amelia.
Yeah, it's great for getting your feet wet for first-timers especially.
Next year, date and location will be announced in January. That's where you can get this hardware. The medals, you got the kettlebells as well. Orange jackets, like the green jacket of the Masters, for getting 100 miles. The new format, Toughest Mudder, launches with the first event this March. And we want to make sure you have all the dates to participate. For dates and locations of all Tough Mudder events, visit toughmudder.com. Thoughts on what we see here?
It's going to be an incredible year. There's going to be so much competition out there and so much camaraderie and so much teamwork. And I think it's just going to be bigger and better. I know I'm looking forward to getting back out there.
And CBS Sports will be along for the ride to document each of the 6 World's Toughest Events and World's Toughest Mudder again. For Amelia Boone and all of our Tough Mudder community, I'm Brent Stover. We thank you for joining us. So long.